Guys, Mr. Bowman here. Today's learning objective is white and we are learning to simplify surds. The first thing we're going to get on with is what exactly is a surd. We're going to be focusing on that for the next couple videos. But a surd, they normally refer to these square root signs. So for example, the square root of 10 is a surd, the square root of 50, also a surd. So something to do with square roots. Like our fraction, so if you think of a fraction, maybe 4 over 8, you could simplify that to 1 over half. Your job when you're dealing with fractions is to make the denominator as low as possible. So as low as possible. And the same is true for our surds. So when we're looking at surds, for example, the square root of 50, our job is to try to get this thing in the middle as low as possible. And over this video, we're going to chat about a 3-step process which can help us figure out how to simplify these surds. And spoiler alert, we're going to have a number in front of that surd from our working. So let's see that comes up. Our 3-step process that we're going to explore today. The firstly is you need to find the square factors. And an example of square factors, they revolve around square numbers. For example, 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, and we could get 16, 25, and so on. So hopefully that makes sense about what these square factors are, these square numbers. Once we've found the square factors, we're going to do what I call a bit of a split, and I'll show us what that is. And the final part is we then simplify the square factor. And once you've done that, you should have the simplified fraction. Let's start off at question number 1, square root of 12. The first thing we're going to do on our checklist, number 1, we're going to explore all the factors of 12, and we need to figure out which one involves square numbers. So the factors, 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and then 3 times 4. So these are all the factors of 12, and the only combination that involves square numbers are these 3 and 4. So 4 is the only square number on their list, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this 12 up into the 3 and the 4. So I'm going to start with the square number, so 4, the square number always goes first, times the square root of 3. And you'll see 4 times 3, that gets us to the 12 that was inside the surd to start off with. And a few of you may have figured out already, but that square root of 4, I can simplify that. That's just 2. And our simplified surd over here would be 2 times the square root of 3. And my hint before, my bit of spoiler, we can see we've got that 2 sitting out front of that 3. And there's our simplified surd, because that 3 is not getting any lower. That's as low as that's going to go, so we know it's simplified. Let's have a look at question number 2, the square root of 50. We'll start with all the factors again. So I've got 1 and 50, I've got 2 and 25, and I'm liking this because 25 is a square number. But let's keep going. 3 is a no, 4 is a no, 5 is a yes, and 6, 7, 8, and 9 are also no's. So these are all my lists, and I found out my square factors are going to be the 2 with that 25, which is the square number. So I'm going to split, and again, the square root of 25 goes first because that's the square number. And I'm going to multiply that by the square root of 2. And noting 25 times 2 gets me to that 50. After that, I'm going to simplify the square factor part. So the square root of 25 is 5. So this here is going to be 5 times the square root of 2. So that's the second example done. Let's have a look at this next example here. We're going to start maybe by showing you a common mistake and how we can fix that mistake when we're looking at it. So straight away, I'm going to jump straight into my factors. I'm not going to write my whole list this time. And I am doing an intentional mistake here. But I'm going to use the factors of 8 and 9 because 9 is a square number. And I'm going to go the square root of 9 times the square root of 8. And when we simplify that, that gets to 3 lots of the square root of 8. Now, why this isn't simple, 3 over 8 over here, so that's kind of the same as 4 over 8 before. If you simplify that to 3 over 6, You've simplified a little bit of it, but you haven't gone all the way. So you haven't gone to 1/2. And that's what we've done here. So this 8 actually has factors of 2 times 4. And 4 is a square number. So what that means is the 9 up here wasn't the biggest square number we could have taken out. And if you think about 36 times 2, means we could have taken out a 36 as well. So let's change this. So that's going to be 3 square root of 4 square root of 2. This 4 is going to become 2. So we're left with 3 times 2 times the square root of 2, which is equal to 6 times the square root of 2. And that 6, that came from the factors we should have taken out, which should have been 2 times 36. So if you take out the wrong factors, not a big deal, but you should reflect on your answer to check, well, are there any other larger square numbers that I maybe missed? And do I need to simplify any more, just like I did in that question there? All right, the very last question, I've tried to finish with an annoying one, 126. And the reason I'm finishing with this is I just want to highlight the most annoying step, and that is finding these square factors. It's pretty irritating to do them sometimes. But again, I'm going to do my full list like I did for 1 and 2, so I don't make the same mistake again. So I've got 1 and 126. I've got 2 and 63, no square numbers yet. I've got 3 and 42, no square numbers. It's not divisible by 4. It's not divisible by 5. 6 is a factor, 6 and 21, but again, still no square numbers. 7 is a no, 8 is a no, and the last set of factors, 9 and 14. And I like this last set, 9 and 14, because 9 is a square number. So let's do our split. So we've got the square root of 9 times the square root of 14. And again, I'm emphasizing that square number is up front. That's going to become 3 times the square root of 14. And you should note the square root of 14 is quite a big number. It's actually bigger than the 8 from the previous question. So you should have a bit of think, are there any square numbers left in 14? So we've got 1 times 14, 2 times 7, and if you have a look, no square numbers there, apart from 1 obviously. So that means that is its simplest form. So hopefully you found the video on simplifying surds useful. Hopefully you know what a surd is, why we simplify, what the 3-step process is, and we've gone through 4 examples as well. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Now let's get into heaps of practice.